She says, oh, I can't take no more. Her tears like diamonds on the floor, and her diamonds bring me down, 'cause I can't help her now. She's down in it. She tried to rest and now she can't win it. Hard to see them on the ground.
Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to the December 2nd edition of WrestleTalkShow. Tuesday, December 2nd, 2014. I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, here to bring you the latest and greatest professional wrestling news, bits, rumors, anything and everything wrestling. We're glad to be back. Happy belated Thanksgiving to everybody. We hope you had your fill. There was a bit of a vacation, an abrupt vacation, if you will. We all deserve one. We'll be taking probably the week of, like most companies do, we'll be taking probably Christmas Eve into January 2nd for our Christmas holiday. I spent the better part of the morning looking up the news and releasing the news on the facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow Facebook page. Everything and anything and everything WrestleTalkShow, it's there. You can also watch our video archive at youtube.com/CWE Company. There is the majority of 3 years worth of content. We've been doing this for 3 years. Just to give you a brief biographical, Continental Wrestling Entertainment was formed in August of 1999. It's an independent wrestling promotion serving Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Delaware, West Virginia, Utah, and South Carolina. Our goal with this wrestling organization since its inception is to create and provide stepping stones for either wrestlers that are already trained or wrestlers that would like to make a name for themselves. We don't discriminate like most promotions. We encourage the talent to stay with us, but if our training gets them into the promotion of their dreams, more power to them. We encourage them all to come back to their roots, and 99% of them do. They contribute in and out of the ring for Continental Wrestling Entertainment. In April 2011, we formed the sister company to CWE, which is this, WrestleTalkShow. Our goal with this company is to provide the true wrestling fan with a true outlet where they will actually be heard. You can email your questions, comments, concerns to the show, or email your resumes, anything and everything wrestling, to Joshua R. Zimmerman at gmail.com. That is replacing the former CWE company at gmail.com. Anything and everything CWE, WrestleTalkShow, or just to get a hold of me, Joshua R. Zimmerman at Joshua R. Zimmerman at gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook again, /WrestleTalkShow, or for Continental Wrestling Entertainment and Joshua Zimmerman /CWE Company. This channel on YouTube, youtube.com/CWE Company. As soon as we can link the two accounts, we will. We're having some issues with Google Plus still, slowly but surely remembering the passwords. Follow us on Twitter at CWE Company. Our LinkedIn page at Joshua R. Zimmerman. That's a business networking site. We encourage our business associates to follow us on there, and anyone on there to reach out and touch us. Our friends at Smart Wrestling Fan, Joe Negron, Dishban, and Mr. Mutant Larry, smartwrestlingfan.com. Every week, a 3-hour plus podcast devoted to wrestling. Our friends Wade Keller and James Codwell at the PW Torch and pwtorch.com. They do a Monday through Friday podcast, an hour long. Mondays, the hour before Raw. Tuesday through Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right on their site, pwtorch.com, or at Blog Talk Radio. That's Blog Talk Radio. And again, finally, but certainly not last, our friends at WrestlingInc.com. Let's get into your wrestling news for the day, shall we? We missed a lot. We tried, like I said, anything that we don't cover on this specific show, we've been posting since Thanksgiving, the wrestling news on the WrestleTalkShow Facebook page. That again is facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow. Topping the news and headlines for sports entertainment, Vince McMahon talks Steve Austin, CM Punk, Macho Man Randy Savage, his son Shane, and their chemistry. Vince McMahon says subscriptions are good for the network and the satisfaction rate is at 96%. He hopes to have the network running in England by January, but nothing is set in stone. Austin and McMahon argue over what is sports entertainment and what is professional wrestling. Vince says they tell stories. Vince says they tell stories. What his dad promoted was pro wrestling. He says some of the match. He said he liked the show tonight, referring to Monday Night Raw. You can follow Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast on iTunes. Just look up Stone Cold Steve Austin and you're sure to find it. A lot of great content for the avid wrestling fan. But like I said, Wrestle Talk, before we kick this off, Wrestle Talk Show is about you, the wrestling fans, and you, the wrestling fan, having your voice heard. So whether it be on our pages, our YouTube channel, or whatever outlet you decide to use, tell us your feelings on professional wrestling. No topic is a bad topic. Anything that's on your mind, and we'll cover it the following show. Emails sent from this show forward. Again, this is how it'll work. From this show forward, it'll be referenced on the next show, and so on and so on. Moving in, He says he liked Monday Night Raw tonight. McMahon seems to be giving really corporate political answers. The points, here are the points for that podcast. McMahon points to Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, as Bray Wyatt as guys who are looking to grab the brass ring. He says today's locker room isn't as ambitious as in Austin's heyday because everyone is afraid to fail. Austin challenges the roster to step up. Austin says McMahon doesn't have a magic wand to get someone over. Austin asks what Cesaro is lacking, and McMahon says he hasn't connected yet, and it's lacking in charisma and lacking it. Austin disagrees and says he organically started to like him and thought that the Heyman pairing slowed him down after the Real Americans split. Be right back, guys. Alright. Sorry for that delay. Austin asks what he can do to fix. Austin asks what he can do to fix that as a promoter, and McMahon says he doesn't have the answer to everything, but something is missing. He can't pinpoint it, but something is missing. McMahon says no one man has the answer to booking organizations, and he can't do it all. He says that it's a mammoth Mammoth Organization. He then changes the subject to pushing Nick Bockwinkel into a pool. Austin asks where Shane McMahon is, and then says he's working in Japan and has his finger in a lot of pots and is living a family life. He says a family business is difficult, and being a dad in a family business and having your wife work with you can be rough. Vince says he didn't want Shane and Stephanie to get into the business necessarily, but wanted them to do what they wanted for themselves. He talks about his early days in the business and working for his father. Austin asks if Vince wants to talk to CM Punk. Vince apologizes to Punk for firing him on his wedding day and said legal and talent relations aren't always on the same page and it was a coincidence. He doesn't want to air dirty laundry on TV, but he hopes that one day they can work together again. Austin talks about how he walked out in 2002 and McMahon said he was so hard-headed that he was impossible to deal with. They talk about the storyline that forced Austin out, and Austin said leaving was the worst professional decision he ever made. He said that while he was gone, Vince left 3 voicemails trying to reach out but wouldn't talk to him. Finally, after Jim Ross sent him a card, he spoke to JR and finally arranged a meeting with Vince. Austin asks if there's anyone around to bridge the gap between WWE and Punk. McMahon says he wishes there was, apparently forgetting Punk's wife works for him. Austin says when he came back in 2003, Vince wanted to fine him $650,000, but was talked down to $250,000. Austin jokingly asks if he could have gotten it down to $125,000. McMahon said that Austin deserved it for what happened. McMahon is asked when the decision was made to end The Undertaker's streak. McMahon says it was about timing and there was nobody on the roster that would have fit in that role, and Undertaker agreed. Austin called out McMahon saying there's no way that was Undertaker's call. Vince says that's true, and he ultimately made the decision and thinks he made the right call at the right time. Austin asks why Brock isn't on TV, and Vince says he's a special attraction. He compares Brock Lesnar being on TV to Jake Roberts bringing a big python to the ring. If you see it each week, you become numb to it. He feels the story draws fans in, not the title. Austin asks about Randy Savage in the Hall of Fame. McMahon says yes without hesitation, but doesn't have a timetable. McMahon is asked what took so long to get Sting there. He said times are different and you have to roll with the punches. McMahon says Ted Turner's business motive was to hurt the other guy and his business motive was to make a good show. He said it was just a matter of time before they toppled WCW because they had the better show. He said both shows were going so hard it came down to who would burn out the quickest. McMahon says the AWA put themselves out of business. He tried to buy the company from Vern Gagne, but was shot down. Vince said he kept reinvesting in his product, and when others wanted to hold on to their money. He says that Bill Watts is the only person who actually invested his money back into this territory. McMahon says he only competed with Bill Watts once he learned his... McMahon says he only competed with Bill Watts once and learned his lesson until Watts sold to Crockett. He said Crockett wasn't the brightest branch in the tree and decided to move into his territory after that. Austin asked Vince McMahon if there's any heat between McMahon and Ross. Vince says there's no heat on his half, but the incident in Los Angeles was really unprofessional. McMahon doesn't rule out working with Jim Ross in the future. Austin puts Ross over creatively. Austin puts over Ross's creativity and thinks it's a mistake to not have him around. McMahon said Ross wanted to lead Connecticut for Oklahoma and worked hard and paid his dues like no other. Ross wanted to help some, but didn't want to commit to a 24/7 schedule, and McMahon said he couldn't work half-assed in this job. McMahon says he understood the psychology of the Stone Cold / Mr. McMahon feud because he's no better than anyone else, but nobody else is better than him. He said that he could relate to both sides of the feud because he felt he truly was Stone Cold's, because he felt like he truly was Stone Cold's character. Austin says they're counting him. Austin says they're counting him down to the end of the show, and then said, quote, "I happen to own the network, so we're going for 15 more minutes." McMahon says his father didn't want him to be a wrestler because he couldn't be a businessman and a wrestler. Vince said wrestling was one of the greatest thrills in his life. Austin talks about how he was pitched a ringmaster gimmick and how McMahon didn't want to see how McMahon didn't see a superstar in him, so he had to take the initiative. Austin asks McMahon about the table spot at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. McMahon says he was bruised and had a lot of bleeding. Austin talks about the double turn at WrestleMania 13 and said that when they were going over the match, he, Bret, and Vince were the only three in the room going over it. Austin says he heard that it would be a submission match on TV and thought it would stink because he wasn't a submission wrestler. Hart suggested that Austin bleed, so Austin agreed, and he double-checked with McMahon. Austin asks how McMahon felt about it. McMahon said, looking back, he was probably pissed off, but it isn't about what he wants, it's about what the fans want. Austin asks if Vince McMahon is truly giving fans what they want and if WWE is listening. McMahon says he thinks the future is good despite ratings not being what they were in the 90s. Austin asks how fans can send their voice. McMahon says he listens to the crowd, the audience, and social media. Austin asks McMahon when he's going to retire. McMahon says he's enjoying it now more than ever. He's healthy. He's working as many hours as he can than ever before. He says physically he isn't losing a step and doesn't think he is mentally. He said there's some people here that think I'm out of touch, but those people are just critics. Again, you can listen to the full podcast in your search bar on iTunes. Type in Stone Cold Steve Austin. A lot of great wrestling content on iTunes, on YouTube. We encourage you to watch it all. Brock Lesnar removed from next week's WWE Raw. WWE has removed WWE World Heavyweight Champion Brock Lesnar from their event listing for next week's Raw from the Bon Skurs Wellness Arena in Greensville, South Carolina. Lesnar had been advertised for next week's show since October. You can read the full article at WrestlingInc.com. Seth Rollins thinks Lesnar not being around is, quote, bullcrap. The official website of the Bon Skurs Wellness Arena has also removed Lesnar from the description for next week's show. The original description read, Raw main event, John Cena and Dean Ambrose versus Money in the Bank contract winner Seth Rollins and Kane. Plus, you'll see WWE World Heavyweight Champion Brock Lesnar, WWE COO Triple H, and the Slammy Awards will take place live here in Greensville. Here are the current Raw tapings that WWE has Lesnar advertised for. On December 15th, he'll be in Detroit, Michigan. December 29th, Washington, D.C. January 12th, 2015, New Orleans. January 19th, Dallas, Texas. And January 26th, Hartford, Connecticut. Bellator MMA president plans to pursue Brock Lesnar. With Brock Lesnar off the road and his contract rumored to expire following WrestleMania, he's already drawn the interest of several suitors. It's no secret that UFC would love to have Brock Lesnar back, as interest in their brand peaked on pay-per-view with him as champion. However, they're not the only fight promotion hoping to acquire the juggernaut. Dana White talks more about Brock Lesnar to the UFC if Lesnar would sign with the competition. The full article is available at WrestlingInc.com. Bellator President Scott Coker appeared on MMA Fighting's MMA Hour this afternoon and expressed his desire to talk to the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion about a possible move to the company. Quote, "We've had a conversation internally and it's worth a conversation, but that's something we'll pursue maybe later into January," Coker told Ariel Helwani on Monday's MMA Hour. Quote, "I would say look at any fighter that's out there or any star athlete, not star athlete in the sense of a baseball player, but like a Brock Lesnar that really wants to fight. We're going to have a conversation with them because if they can move the needle, we're going to want them on Spike TV." Quote, "I think that he's a big needle mover. There have been several years that have passed, and I think that he still has the WWE limelight, so I think that he still has a lot of star power. But to come back and say," quote, "Hey, I want to train, I want to commit, I want to fight," that's going to be a bigger commitment. We haven't had a conversation yet, but we'd like to," Coker said. Lesnar went 5-3 in the UFC, but still shares the record for most successful UFC heavyweight title defenses. He hasn't fought professionally since 2011. Conan explains his hit and run with police, claims Rey Mysterio was to be at Survivor Series. On episode 156 of MLW Radio, wrestler Conan discussed a photo that Rey Mysterio had posted on Instagram of Conan being arrested at a recent San Diego Chargers game. He explained that he attended the game with Rey Mysterio, Rey's son, MVP, and some other people. He said that tensions were high and there was a prominent police presence because the Chargers were playing the Raiders, explaining there is a fierce rivalry between the teams and that fights occur in the stands when the two teams meet. Due to some security rules regarding the size of bags that are allowed into the venue, a female guest in their group was not allowed to come in with her purse, and Conan decided to return the bag to his car. You can read the full inquiry at WrestlingInc.com. Conan in recent tweets, WWE worker from Del Rio incident says free Ray and racism is rampant. Quote, I tell Ray, hey, I need the keys to the car. There are these workers who are there, and they're like, you can't pass this line. Conan said, I go. I'm not trying to pass the line. I'm trying to get that key. So all of a sudden, a cop who looks like a cop who looks a lot like the guy from The Shield, Michael Chiklis, says he just grabs my arm and he tries to put it behind my back. I didn't know who he was, so I resisted, and I was actually going to try and take him down, and he goes, don't tense up. He continued saying the officer grabbed him and pulled him to another area, and that MVP told the officer to calm down. Conan said the officer insulted him, yelled at him, accused him of being drunk, adding that the officer searched him and found what Conan described as a little bud. He said the officer then handcuffed him and told him he was going to jail for being rowdy. Conan indicated he was walked to another area of the stadium where field sobriety tests were administered. Conan alleges that after the sobriety tests were administered, the officer told him he had been afraid that MVP was going to punch him during their initial conversation. He said that he went back and forth with the officer and that he feels like the officer just singled him out because he had acted rudely. Conan said he was taken to jail after proving that he was not drunk, and he was ultimately let go. Later in the podcast, Conan discussed Survivor Series, stating that he tuned in because he had heard that Rey Mysterio was supposed to appear. Asked by his fellow host why Rey did not show up, Conan said he was not able to share what he personally knows about Rey's situation at this time. WWE doctor talks working for the WWE and working for Vince McMahon. WWE doctor Chris Amnon came under fire last week when former WWE champion CM Punk singled him out as an incompetent and lazy while on Colt Cabana's podcast. Amnon was recently a guest on Chris Jericho's Talk is Jericho podcast alongside Dolph Ziggler and spoke about several topics. The Jericho podcast was recorded before the Punk podcast with Cabana was released. The full statement, WWE issues statement in response to CM Punk's comments ripping WWE doctors. That's available at WWE.com and WrestlingInc.com. Jericho noted that Amnon is a hard-working doctor, saying that he often works 5 to 6 days a week. Prior to Amnon joining the company, WWE only had their own doctor present at television tapings. Regarding his relationship with McMahon, Amnon said that McMahon has been very hospitable and welcome, and they've developed trust in each other. He said McMahon is respectful of any medical decisions they make, and there are things they can work around, and generally what the doctors say goes. CM Punk accused Amnon of allowing him to compete for months with a staph infection that was originally diagnosed as a fatty deposit, while Amnon put over the company's concussion policy in the interview, which ran in early November. Punk last week said that he considered it a joke. Amnon said that he dislikes the travel for the job, but often travels with the wrestlers. He said, as a boss, he's had harder times dealing with high school football coaches than he has with WWE's captain, Vince McMahon. That should tell you something about youth sports. Former WWE Diva injured, WWE stock note, and Orton's opponent from Madison Square Gardens announced. We've noted how WWE Studios and Warner Brothers are already working on a second Scooby-Doo movie as well as a Flintstones movie that comes out next year. They're also working on animated shorts featuring WWE superstars together with classic Hanna-Barbera characters, according to PWE Insider. The updated lineup for WWE's December 26th live event at Madison Square Gardens includes Seth Rollins versus Cena in a street fight, Kane versus Orton. In a street fight, Kane versus Orton. In a street fight, Kane versus Randy Orton, Eric Rowan versus, in a street fight, Cena and Rollins in a street fight, Kane versus Randy Orton, Eric Rowan versus WWE Intercontinental Champion Luke Harper, Paige and the Bella Twins, Jack Swagger, Ryback, and The Big Show are also advertised. Former WWE diva Michelle McCool suffered a nasty injury while working out today and needed 11 stitches. She posted detailed photographs on her Instagram account and, quote, "It's been a rough morning, but I'm okay, only 11 stitches. Was cool seeing the muscles so exposed and now I get a nap." Dun dun dun. CM Punk launches new t-shirt and will WWE comment on Punk. CM Punk has launched his official t-shirt. CM Punk has launched his official t-shirt store at ProWrestlingTees.com. On a related note, there are a lot of people within WWE who are wondering how the company will respond to Punk's comments on Colt Cabana's Art of Wrestling podcast. It will be interesting to see if they reference Punk on Raw this week. Update on a fantasy match: Sting possibly facing Triple H and or The Undertaker. We noted before that there was still talk during Survivor Series weekend that Sting would be facing The Undertaker in his first match for WWE. Then after Sting debuted at Survivor Series, word came out last week that Sting may end up wrestling more than one match for WWE. But they were apparently building to a match against Triple H. Rob Finstein of RF Video, who has broken many scoops in the past, wrote several hours before Sting's debut that he heard The Undertaker wouldn't be facing Sting and that a match with Triple H was in the works. Feinstein wrote the following hours before Survivor Series, quote, "From what I've been hearing, I think Undertaker is done and the plans are for Sting and Triple H at Mania, but anything can change, but that is what I've been told." Congratulations to New Japan Pro Wrestling for launching their version of the WWE Network. Following major announcements that New Japan Pro Wrestling would... Damn it, 1 second. That gets put there. Following major announcements that New Japan Pro Wrestling would be on American television and pay-per-view, the company also has announced their own over-the-top distribution network. The service, which is called New Japan World, will cost $8.50 a month and will feature all of the promotion's live events beginning this month. WWE made a similar move with the WWE Network earlier this year, offering their network for $9.99 a month. Events featured would include Wrestle Kingdom and the G1 Climax tourney, Wrestling Observer believes that the company is inching closer to ending its relationship with their current television distributor, Samurai TV. At a press conference early Monday, the company announced that the Korakuen Hall shows, which previously aired on Samurai, will now air on their own service. Taki Kidani expressed his desire to compete with the WWE and said that currently New Japan is the number 2 company as it pertains to business, but number 1 in the ring. They now plan to pass WWE, and they are making more and more moves into American homes. The company hopes to earn 100,000 subscribers for the first year. As of now, the entire site is in Japanese, with apparently no option for a translation. Some American fans have already ordered the service. However, congratulations, New Japan. I'd take a step back for a minute and, well, give me 1 second, guys, and we'll actually go into that in a minute, because that actually brings up a good point. So, New Japan Pro, let's just set the form here, if we will. New Japan for $8.50 a month versus Wrestling Juggernaut World Wrestling Entertainment for $10 a month. Now, you're going to hear a lot of repeating. As of our return, we kind of went in the archive. Again, youtube.com/CWE Company. Use any of the keywords. WrestleTalkShow, WTS, Joshua Zimmerman. You're sure to find anything, all of our videos. And what I've commented on before is, and what will stand by till the day we die, is New Japan's product is fresher. Where you get wrestling fans now that are saying it's the same old, nothing new, where when you see or watch a lower scale promotion, you'll notice, you'd be naive not to notice, you'll notice that the underdogs put more into their show. And what I mean by that is, you take a WWE 3-hour pay-per-view, you're gonna have, oh hell, just take a televised event. You're gonna have what? An hour that are just advertisements and promos, versus that of an indie promotion that might take 1 or 2 commercial breaks every 30, 45 minutes, but that entire time, they're hammering the product into you. Not, that's a bad adjective. They don't stray, that's a better word. They don't stray. You bought a wrestling event, and they're going to give you the wrestling event. You're going to see match after match after match. The promos, the storylines cut into what they're doing on that event, and you're not misled by anything, and your money isn't wasted by 45 minutes of commercials and another 25, 30 minutes of promos that really don't go anywhere, and if they do, it's only for that night. Independents like New Japan want your $8.50 a month, where we argued last show that, or I argued, I should say, that WWE already thinks it has your money. Wrestling fans have maybe not given WWE as their first option, but WWE for years has taken the wrestling fan for granted. Oh, that money will just be there, like we were saying about the subscribers and how they assume you're just going to be there because they're the only wrestling product around. And if you remember, I cited pros and cons to that because, yes, they are the default, but what you'll notice when you have a default is, like right after the buyout, yeah, your wrestling fans will stay around. Hell, they want to watch wrestling. You're the only thing around. But what you'll notice, if anyone's telling you the truth, is that while they're watching the default product, and in this case, World Wrestling Entertainment is the default, wrestling fans will go online, check back channels. Hell, I even watch high school wrestling to get back to the grassroots of professional wrestling. And what we're noticing more and more, and you'd be naive not to notice it, is that, yeah, you trip over something. For example, just pick any example you want, really, but we'll use this as an example. WWE has what? 6 to 8 hours a week of cable time where you'll watch all that and then you'll say, okay, it's a Wednesday night. There's nothing on outside of the network. So I'm going to go online and I'm going to watch the best of ECW, or I'm going to watch an NJPW pay-per-view. Well, the wrestling fan will be concerned about the wrestling. And this is where I've said over the years, McMahon has made many of flaws. Yes, your generic wrestling fan will be there at the end of the day for World Wrestling Entertainment to count its money, count that person as a buyer, etc., etc. But what WWE needs to do is start utilizing its NXT programs and everything else. Stick to the wrestling entertainment. We need to start making the superstars, the wrestlers of tomorrow, into the superstars of the future. Because like we explained last show, where WWE dropped the ball was when both Cena and Bryant were injured. They had nobody to fill the spots, had to call an audible on the fly, which is unexcusable for a promotion that's had sort of, not to discredit the wrestlers, but they have this exorbitant amount of talent that either winds up not being fully utilized or cut too early, or sadly both, that John Cena does not need, I'm sorry, but John Cena does not need to win every pay-per-view. John Cena does not need to highlight every Raw. I would stand up and applaud WWE if one Raw they had strictly the wrestlers of tomorrow, if you will. Let's see what the talent that's making less money than Cena, virtually no money, that really wants to go out there, and I'm not saying the hustle, loyalty, respect thing doesn't fly anymore, and that Cena doesn't do it for the love of the business, because I think we all know he does. But he's been the face of that company for a decade. And it was nice with the pipe bombs and all that. If you remember when Punk first showed up on the scene, it kind of put everything in perspective. Daniel Bryan was from an indie promotion. Punk was from an indie promotion. Orton was the grassroots, a family in wrestling. But their love of the business came through, and it was actually a brief storyline. And I think WWE could earn new fans and a lot of its older fans, its veteran fans back, if it actually utilized shows like Tough Enough, NXT, Main Event, dark matches before live events. Really hype those matches. Don't not sell them. Put out there that the wrestlers of tomorrow will be wrestling tonight. you're not going to, the moral of the story is you're not going to always have the Cenas, you're not going to always have the Ortons, you're not going to always have the Kanes. And for WWE all this year to be caught with their pants down, with the injury kind of turning it into more than what it was, because WWE was exposed to have all this talent but not have anyone in line to pick up the slack if its main eventers were hurt. And it rolled right into my argument that wrestlers should be insured. McMahon clears billions of dollars, that's why I call them the default fan, because it seems like WWE counts these fans whether you watch the product or not. WWE always seems to make money year in and year out. And it just baffles me that first thing as a promoter I was taught is look out for your workers first, because your workers will go above and beyond for you if they see that you're going to go have their back and go above and beyond for them. And what I think McMahon tries to justify is, oh, we pay them millions and millions of dollars. Why do I have to give them insurance too? Well, for legal purposes, yeah, independent contractor works. As a person, I would tell Vince McMahon, be real with yourself. Give back to this talent what you want to show. And that's that I'm a promoter that wants to look out for my guys, not that you're just the flavor of the week. And the way the current contracts are set up is you're hot until you're not. Ash draws. It results in WWE paying your medical bills, a one final payoff, and then they're done with you. Whereas it shouldn't be that way. Wrestlers, and I hate to say it, and I know it makes wrestling fans nauseous, but a wrestler like Cena who puts in a decade of his life to a company should be more than an independent contractor. He should have his promoter saying, he's my golden boy. This is like a football franchise is to a quarterback. We're putting everything we have in him. He's the face of the team, and we're going to do whatever we can to better him, to better the team. Where you have McMahon saying, yeah, these are all my talent until they get injured. This is my talent until they get injured. Stop from going flavor of the week to long-term investments. Wrestlers like Cena, Bryan, and Orton have given Undertaker, Kane, have given you the better years of their lives devoted to this business. And without going on a rant, the least a promoter can do is insure its wrestlers. I know it's unheard of, I know it's expensive, but when you have the kind of running working capital that McMahon has, and I'm not saying every promoter should do this, start showing your people, even though they're paid, that you value them more than just until they get hurt. That's all I'm saying. Moving on, our next story. Jericho responds to Punk comments on the Colt Cabana show. Chris Jericho responds to some comments CM Punk made about Jericho on Colt Cabana's Art of Wrestling podcast. Punk mentioned that Chris Jericho contacted him. Punk mentioned that Chris Jericho contacted him, but insinuated that he may have had an agenda in trying to get Punk's story on his podcast. Jericho called Punk a friend, so he was surprised about what he said. Jericho said that he never asked Punk to do a podcast after Punk left the WWE. Although he did ask him in December, he said that there was a date planned. He said that there was a date planned, but that Punk pulled out because he didn't have anything good to say about wrestling. Jericho said that he did text Punk several times after Punk left, but never asked him to do a podcast. He said that there may have been others trying to get information from him, but he wasn't one of them. Jericho said he has no ill will towards Punk and considers him a friend. Jericho noticed that he kind of understood why Punk left, because he was in a similar position in 2005. He finished by saying he would talk more about it on his podcast. Steve Austin comments on possibly wrestling for WWE again. As noted, Steve Austin recently spoke with WWE's website to promote tonight's live podcast with Vince McMahon on the WWE network. Austin was also asked if he will be returning to the ring. He replied, "As we speak right now, no." Speaking of Austin, the new season of Redneck Island on CNT starts Thursday, December 4th, and the new season of Broken Skull Challenge on CNT starts Sunday, January... This is confusing. Oh, never mind. Redneck Island premieres again Thursday, December 4th, and Broken Skull Challenge on CMT premieres Sunday, January 4th, so tune into that. WWE cancels Best Matches of 2014 DVD for other countries. WWE's Best Pay-Per-View Matches of 2014 will be released on January 5th as a UK exclusive this time. The series had been canceled for other countries. Below is the full content listing courtesy of WrestlingDVDnews.com. On the first disc, it will be Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt at the Rumble on January 26, 2014. The six-man tag match, The Shield versus the Wyatt family. The Elimination Chamber for February 23rd. Elimination Chamber match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Orton versus Cena versus Daniel Bryan versus Cena. Let me try this again. Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship. Randy Orton versus John Cena versus Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus versus Cesaro versus Christian. Elimination Chamber. Winner earns a spot in the WWE title match. Triple H versus Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania, April 6, 2014. World Heavyweight Championship match, Orton versus Batista versus Bryan, WrestleMania, April 6, 2014. On the second disc, it's a We'll See match, El Tortito versus Hornswoggle, Extreme Rules pre-show, May 4th, 2013. Intercontinental Championship match, Big E versus Bad News Barrett, Extreme Rules, May 4th, 2014. Six-man tag match, Evolution versus The Shield, Extreme Rules, May 4th, 2014. United States Championship match, Sheamus versus Cesaro, Payback, June 1st, 2014. Last Man Standing match, John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, Payback, June 1st, 2014. Money in the Bank ladder match, Seth Rollins versus Rob Van Dam versus Jack Swagger versus Ziggler versus Kingston versus Dean Ambrose. Money in the Bank, June 29th, 2014. 2 out of 3 falls match for the WWE tag titles, The Usos versus Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, Battleground, July 20th, 2014. Battle Royal for the vacant WWE Intercontinental Championship, held at Battleground, July 20th, 2014. And the third disc, WWE Divas Championship match, AJ Lee versus Paige, SummerSlam, August 17th, 2014. Flag match, Rusev versus Swagger, SummerSlam, August 17th, 2014. Lumberjack match, Ambrose versus Rollins, SummerSlam, August 17th, 2014. WWE World Tag Team Championship match, The Usos versus Gold and Stardust, Night of Champions, September 21st. Randy Orton versus Jericho, Night of Champions, September 21st. World Heavyweight Championship match, Cena versus Lesnar, Night of Champions, September 21st, 2014. 2 out of 3 falls match for the Intercontinental Championship, Ziggler versus Cesaro, Hell in a Cell, October 26, 2014. Hell in a Cell match, winner earns a future WWE World Heavyweight title match, Cena versus Orton, Hell in a Cell, October 26, 2014. And to all you holiday shoppers, WWE Network offering deal for the holidays, Cyber Monday details. With the free month of November over, WWE Network is running a new special for the holidays. For a limited time only, fans can get an entire year of WWE Network as a gift and receive a free Roku streaming stick. Details are available at WWE.com or WrestlingInc.com. WWE also has several Cyber Monday offers up. WWEshop.com is offering 80% off merchandise plus another 25% off the entire order. Free shipping on orders of $15 or more. Bret Hart talks Owen Hart, British Bulldog, and his relationship with referee Earl Hebner. Wrestling 101 recently interviewed WWE Hall of Famer Bret the Hitman Hart. Below are the highlights. When asked if Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith will ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame, quote, "I really hope so. Both of them should be. I think it's just a matter of time. I think WWE has just been waiting for the right time to approach it with Owen's widow, Martha. It's just been waiting for the right time to either approach it with Owen's widow, Martha, and I don't know what the final decision is with that. I hate that Owen's widow has done so much to erase his memory and not keep his memory alive. I find that it is an insult to him and his family and all the great things he did for the fans who remember him. I take exception for all that now. And I want to bring as much of Owen back to life for wrestling fans and let them remember what a great person he was and what a great performer he was and how much fun he was as a wrestler, especially coming over to the UK. I find it interesting how many fans really loved Owen and his personality and his style of wrestling and all the little things about him. I miss all of those things about Owen as well, and I would like to bring more of that back. There must be troves of video and film of Owen doing things on tour. These are all in a can somewhere, and no one is seeing them, and I really think that they need to revive the great memories of what Owen did before it's too far gone. The fans great memories of what Owen did before it's too far gone. The fans that remember him start to die. It's just awful how Martha erased everything he has done. Well, there you go. His relationship with Earl Hebner and Shawn Michaels. I always tell people you can't make peace halfway. To make peace with somebody, you have to make peace and bury the hatchet, or you just keep fighting forever. I made peace with Shawn, and we have a good relationship. We text each other every once in a while. He's a Christian and he's got a family. The wrestling world is kind of a different thing now. We revert back to old memories, and sometimes we will send each other funny little messages. But we are on decent terms. I'll never forget what happened that night in Montreal. But the reality is I was pretty good friends with Shawn before all the bad blood happened. Like I say, once you make peace, you've either got to make peace because you can't make peace half-assed where you still hate somebody and harbor bad feelings. You either have to let go or forget about it, and I let go when we made up, and I've got a good chemistry with Shawn now. The same can be said with Earl Hebner. I think Earl may have been the biggest victim of the whole screw job. He got the shittiest deal out of everyone. He got nothing for it and got kicked around for a long time. He got forced into something that was really hard. I don't know if I would have done anything different to what he did if I was in his position. I probably would have done it different to most guys, actually. There are a lot of wrestlers, when you put their family and livelihood, there are a lot of wrestlers when you put their family and livelihood on the line, you can't blame Earl for taking the position there and doing what he had to do. They really put him in a compromising predicament just before he walked out of the ring. I don't really have any hard feelings towards Earl. I think it was a lousy thing that they did to him. It was a lousy thing what they did to me, but it was a lousy thing, period. Bret also talked about his current relationship with Vince McMahon, inducting his father into the WWE Hall of Fame, his match with the Bulldog at SummerSlam 92, and much more. Dixie Carter makes announcement regarding TNA UK Impact tapings and stars confirmed for tour. TNA President Dixie Carter announced today, this was published November 30th, so it's about a week old. Like I said, anything that we don't specifically come out on topic for, we've been posting since Thanksgiving on Facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow. But here we go. TNA President Dixie Carter announced today that their live events in Glasgow, Manchester, and London during the Maxim Impact 7 tour in late January will be Impact tapings. It also was announced that the 6 finalists of TNA Wrestling British Boot Camp 2 will appear at the shows on tour. Confirmed for the tour are TNA World Heavyweight Champion Bobby Roode, Magnus, Rockstar Spud, James Storm, MVP, Madison Rayne, Abyss, Eric Young, Al Snow, Gail Kim, and Samoa Joe. Quote, "Our fans across the UK know TNA for the unmatched professional wrestling we deliver each week on Challenge," Carter said. Quote, "We are thrilled to once again showcase internationally through our flagship program, Impact, the energy and excitement of the rowdy UK crowds by televising all 3 of our Maximum Impact 7 events at the Glasgow, Manchester. By televising all 3 of our Maximum Impact 7 events in Glasgow, Manchester, and London. After the incredible energy the UK fans gave the Impact shows broadcast from these cities this past January, I decided we had to try and raise the bar even higher in 2015. Quote, "Several talent such as Lashley, Bram, Angelina Love, and TNA Knockouts champion Tanya Terrell will be making their first appearance on TNA UK tour or returning after several years' absence. We also have some very exciting things planned for the tour and several surprises fans will not want to miss. Being able to meet the finalists of British Boot Camp before every show is an added bonus." WWE announcer confirms DVD project, 3 legends already interviewed. The commercial appeal of Memphis spoke with WWE Hall of Famer Jerry Lawler at the annual Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention last weekend. Lawler confirmed that WWE is working on a DVD project for him. He said, quote, "They've just finished interviewing Lance Russell, Bill Dundee, and Jerry Jarrett, so it's not too far down." They've just finished interviewing Lance Russell, Bill Dundee, and Jerry Jarrett, so it's not too far down the road. It'll be big matches, a retrospective of my entire career. It'll go all the way from the Memphis days up to the WWE days. Rumors on WWE signing top independent talent. Top indie star Ua Nation was on WWE's radar, and he later impressed officials at a WWE Performance Center tryout. Other rumors that Nation was close to signing with the WWE. There were lots of rumors coming out of this weekend's Preston City wrestling event in the UK that said Nation had signed with WWE and will be heading for the Performance Center in Orlando soon. At the PCW event, Nation defeated former WWE superstar Chris Masters to win the PCW title. For what it's worth, talents headed to the WWE dropped their indie titles. So we'll be following that to see if he actually goes. WWE employee releases country EP. WWE producer Michael P.S. Hayes released his Free as a Bird EP on iTunes a few weeks back. The EP is going for $4.95 a piece and features 5 tracks. The release comes after Hayes released his Why Can't the Children Pray in School single in September. The artwork features Hayes, Jimmy Garvin, and the late Buddy Roberts and Terry Gordy. WWE Hall of Famer Jerry Lawler created the cover art for the album, and you can get it at iTunes.com. A list of the tracks on the title. Again, it's 5 tracks from 1 through 5. Why Can't the Children Play in School? Too Red to Get the Blues, Might Be Broke, I'm Glad You're Leaving, and Drink Till You Start Looking Good. Colt Cabana explains why Punk spoke on his podcast. Colt Cabana wrote the following to his mailing list in regards to why CM Punk addressed his WWE departure on Colt's Art of Wrestling podcast this week. Quote, Punk has had this incredible story basically kept to himself for a long time now. There's been so many people bugging and pushing and intruding. I hope this gives him closure, and I hope it gives you closure. We noted before that WWE officials were upset with Cabana for Punk's podcast appearance, and that he said Cabana for Punk's podcast appearance, and that he is said to be on their shit list now. Cabana tweeted the following Friday morning. Cabana via Twitter. WWE removed all Scotty Goldman content off the network. Update. Whoops, it was never on there. Mick Foley responds, I haven't heard the new CM Punk interview, but it sounds like I need to. Congratulations, Colt Cabana, for landing the big one. Cabana then replies to Mick Foley directly, it's not about landing anything, Mick. It's about giving my friend a safe place to talk. I'm not competing with anyone. And that concludes our show for today, folks. We thank you again. I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman. Again, we encourage you to follow this and every story on YouTube, youtube.com/CWE Company. Use the keywords. If you don't go directly to the show, like I said, we're having some link issues. Find us, Wrestle Talk Show, WTS, Joshua Zimmerman, Wrestling, use tags. Follow us on Twitter at CWE Company. Email your questions, comments, concerns, both CWE, Wrestle Talk Show, Joshua R. Zimmerman at gmail.com. Our business associates on our LinkedIn page. Keywords Joshua Zimmerman, Continental Wrestling Entertainment, linkedin.com/CWE Company. Our friends at PW Torch, pwtorch.com, smartwrestlingfan.com, wrestlinginc.com. We love you guys. We thank you. And we hope you enjoyed this show. This is Joshua Zimmerman saying have a great week. And we'll see you next week.